You drove from Iran all the way to China, you said, on your honeymoon. Must ask you about that.
I drove from actually Manchester, from England.
Manchester?
Yes.
I hope you got on a boat to cross the channel.
That's right, yes.
And then you drove all the way. How long did it take you?
It took me 4 months to go and come back. I've done about 25,000 kilometers.
That was some honeymoon you had.
We went to about 23 countries. It was very good. I love traveling by land.
Excellent. So, were you still living in Iran when the Ayatollah came to power and the Shah left?
No. Before Shah left, it was end of my honeymoon in Iran. And I remember the 13 cities. It was martial law in Iran. And same night before 9 o'clock, which they used to come and close all the gates of the cities, I drove out of Mashhad. And 7 days later, I was in London.
Right.
With my English wife.
Did you leave because you felt you had to leave, because there was a danger, if you'd have stayed, particularly with an English wife? Or?
Since I was a child, to be honest with you, I had no plan and I had no desire to stay in my country. Although I love Iranians and I love the climate, and we have very good organic fruits and vegetables and 4 seasons. And I love my country. I had no desire to stay there. I wanted to come here and study, continue my study in the university.
What were you studying?
My plan was to study medicine. 2 years I studied medicine in Iran, but because I was involved with politics and they found Ayatollah Khomeini's booklet in my closet, they threw me out of the university. I came here to study. I stayed 2 years here, and then I was engaged with my English wife, and my father didn't like it, so he stopped sending money. I had to go back home.
Right, okay. So you came over to the UK, you said you escaped from your city and you came and lived here. You were still a devout Muslim at that stage?
Oh, yes. Until 10 years ago, I used to pray every day. I used to read the Quran, the Book of Islam, and I used to, I didn't like what some Muslims they do around the world, or some Muslim friend of mine around me, or some of the news I've heard, but I used to fast 2 months, and I used to think, I used to agree with Bin Laden and Saddam Hussein and Khomeini, and I hated absolutely Jews, and I was a very bitter person. I was very angry, very big-headed, very stubborn, very greedy. I had no joy.
I was going to ask you, because I guess for many folks who are watching even tonight, they really don't know anyone personally who maybe is a Muslim, who's a follower of Islam, and we just see the caricatures, we read what we see in the papers, and therefore it's hard to understand what's going on in the mind of a Muslim. Can you help us just to talk through about how you were as a person, and just you clearly were a very devout Muslim at that particular time?
To be honest with you, it's very difficult to say, because if I am not in control of my senses, I mean, any type of wind or wave, they can take me away. For example, if I don't like, if I'm a divine Muslim, and I found out that there's injustice on TV, I go angry and I go against them. If somebody I see in the street is beating a man or is robbing someone, I get angry, and I used to get him and for example, beat him up. One day I remember I was on a telephone box, and it was a bit of raining, and there was a young girl inside the telephone where I lived in Manchester, and she was a student type, and she looked to me like Jews. I waited 5 minutes, and it was a bit raining, and she continued. I waited 10 minutes, and she continued talking over the phone. And it wasn't something serious. She was just having fun with her friend. And I knocked at the phone box window, and I said, "Excuse me, you have been long enough, and I'm getting wet. I'm getting fed up." She said, "Well, you can use the phone when I finish." I said, "Look, I count up to 3. If you don't finish, I finish it off." She didn't, and I grabbed the receiver of the phone box from her, and I said, "You are very cheeky, just buzz off." And I put the phone down, and she got upset, and she really got frightened and ran away. Later on, I found out why I'm doing such a thing. And I said, "You are Jew, aren't you?" She said, "No." I said, "You look like Jewish. You look at your nose." So she was insulted for nothing. I don't know why I was so didn't like Jewish people or
I was going to say to
Christians.
you, was it the teaching that you had in your country, in the mosque? What was it?
No.
Or just
It's just when you are
your
such
whole
a fanatic
culture?
Muslim, when you are such a narrow-minded Muslim, and you are dedicated to Islam and love Islam, especially when you read the Quran and you pray and fast, these all have got power on you, and from inside it comes. Your anger comes. Although I was a happy person, because I used to run for marathon, I used to be a sportman, I used to have good friends, I didn't drink and I didn't gamble or smoke, but I was angry inside all the time. I was boiling. I don't know why.
Right, okay. Well, I'm talking to Mostafa tonight. We are live. It's Tuesday, the 6th of February. A little later on in the programme, we're going to open the phone lines. You may want to come back tonight. Maybe you're watching and maybe even at this moment of time, you sympathise a lot with Islam and would consider yourself a Muslim. You might want to question Muhammad on some of the things he's saying. Or maybe you just want to talk to him about what's happening in the Middle East and Iran. Please, in a few moments' time, we'll open the phone lines and talk. But Mostafa, I want to come. You're here in this country. You clearly have all this anger, this hatred that you've expressed towards people like Jews, towards Christians, to the decadence that you saw. But you've lived in our country a long time now, and
Yes.
You obviously have moved, because we're going to come to that point. There came a point where you suddenly realised the emptiness, as I think you would say, of Islam. How did you reach that point?
Mm-hmm. Before I go to church, I didn't like Christianity at all, because I went to a few religious churches for wedding and for christening and for funeral, and I absolutely hated it, absolutely. And I was so depressed in the church, especially those churches where they play those old type organs. That organ music used to depress me. So
Organ music is lovely, Mostafa.
the organ, the old organ, you know, the pipe,
Yes.
pipe organ.
Yeah.
But I used to talk to God, and I used to read the Quran, and I used to tell him,
When you
God,
talk to God, you'd say you talk to Allah?
to God of Islam, yeah. But
Yes.
God of Islam is not like Jesus. God of Islam doesn't talk to you back. But Jesus talks to me. Jesus encourages you, give you peace and joy and love and hope, and he lifts you up. So I remember before I go to church, I had everything I wanted. I had horses, I had motorbikes, I had German Shepherd dogs, I had BMW cars, I had many houses, I used to buy and sell, and I had a comfortable life. And also I had 4 girlfriends. Now this is amazing, this is sickness. I thought having 4 girlfriends is like American Army general, which they have 4 stars. If you get more stars, you go higher rank. So I was looking for the 5th one.